So, you've bought your first Cricut machine, but you have no idea where to start with it. I was in exactly the same position when I first got my machine. So today, I'm going to share with you the key skills that I think you should master first, because I'm sure, just as I was, you guys are just desperate to get crafting. So the three key areas that I suggest that you focus on are number 1, design space, number 2, your choice of material that you really want to get to know first, and then number 3, which accessories are going to be most useful for you. Once you have unboxed your machine and set it up, connected it to your computer, you will find that you can't actually get the machine to do anything unless you use a piece of software called Design Space. This is the way to unlock the magic of your Cricut machine. The only way that it is going to do anything is if Design Space tells it to do that thing. Now, I do generally find Design Space to be quite intuitive to use, but the team at Cricut do like to keep us on our toes by changing things up, adding new features all the time. But you know, once you have mastered the basics, those changes are not going to faze you. Okay, so let's take a quick look at Design Space. So you need to download Design Space. I'll put the link for you in the description and on the screen now. Once you have downloaded it, you will need to create your own login ID. If you're getting a second machine, you'll already have one of those. Once you've done all that, then the first thing you always see on opening Design Space is the home screen. This is what the home screen looks like. I'll be honest with you, I basically spend no time whatsoever here on the home screen, but there are a couple of things I want to point out just to make sure you're aware. First of all, up at the top right, you'll see there is a option for selecting the machine that you're using. It is quite important that you select the correct machine, because as you'll see then when you're working in Design Space, it will have made your experience custom for that particular machine, because of course not everything that you can make on a Maker could be made on the Joy, for example. So make sure you select that. The only other thing that you need to know on the home screen is how to actually start a project. That's pretty simple. You can see there's a button around the middle of the screen that says new project. So you would just simply click on there, and that is how you can get going with a new project. The home screen is the part of Design Space that the Cricut team seem to change the most often. So, you know, after an update, it hardly ever looks the same as it did before. It's not a big deal because, like I said, you don't need to spend a lot of time here, because everything that you might want to do when making a project can be done on the canvas. And so when you click on new project, it takes you to the canvas. This is very exciting because this is the place in which all your creative ideas running around in your brain can be converted into beautiful designs on the screen. So there are a few different ways in which you can design projects in Design Space. You can use an existing ready-to-make project. You can take an existing ready-to-make project and then customize it if you want to make something slightly different. You can build your own project using, you know, shapes and images within Design Space. And you can also, if you are someone who's a little bit more advanced when it comes to these things, you can design your own project in a different program entirely and then upload it into Design Space in order to actually make it. And if that is something you're interested in doing, then check out my Inkscape tutorials, where I share with you some ideas and tips on how to use that software for designing your own projects. But let me just quickly show you how you do those first few options. So once you're on your canvas, you'll see on the left-hand side there's a menu. This is where you can generally find things to add onto your canvas. And so if you click into projects, then you'll get loads of projects which have been designed and prepared by the Cricut team, which means that they have been specifically made to be compatible with whichever machine you're using. So you'll notice, if, for example, if I had filtered this for the Joy, then I would see a different set of projects than what I see because I've got my set to the Maker. And so when you click onto one of these projects, you'll see some images of what it is you're going to be making, and then they'll give you some simple instructions on how to make that project. And you can choose 2 buttons, either customize or make it. So if you click make it, it will take you straight through to the screen in Design Space where you're going to be cutting out all the different parts that you need for that project. So apologies, it's all black, so it's a bit hard to see, but these are all the different stickers that you would be cutting for this particular project, and you're just ready to go, you're happy with everything, and you just go straight through to make it. However, if you want to change something about it, then if you remember, that second option was to take a project that you like the look of, but customize it. So instead of clicking make it, you can click customize. And then what that does is to bring the project onto the canvas for you. And then you can start messing around with things like changing the size, all the different elements, or adding more parts into it, and just make it perfect for how you want, and then go through to make it. Now, the third way of creating your own projects is basically to start from scratch and build it up using images and shapes available in Design Space. So if you click on images on that left-hand menu, you'll get like a huge library of images that have been again prepared by the Cricut team and are available for you to use. Most of them you do want to be a Cricut Access subscriber. That's the monthly subscription where I think it's £7.49 in the UK. What that does is it gives you access to all of these projects and all of these images and fonts in Design Space. If you don't want to be paying every month, you can purchase these individual fonts and images projects. So you can just browse the images. You might be searching for something in particular. I might search Eid because Ramadan is coming up. If I find a project I like, I can just click on it and add to canvas. As we did before with the ready to make project, once something is on your canvas, you can then start making alterations and changes to it. But once you are happy with the way the project is looking, you click on Make It, and then you will go to a screen where you will have to tell Cricut which material you're going to be cutting, because that will make a difference to the way in which the machine does the actual cut. And this will also be another area in which the available options in terms of materials and tools will be filtered for that machine that you had set at the very beginning on your homepage. So of course there is a lot more to Design Space. I wanted to only give you a very brief overview in this video. I do have detailed tutorials on sort of individual functions within Design Space, and I will link that playlist for you below, so please just go and check that out. I definitely find that Design Space is best learnt by just getting your hands dirty, start doing a project and learn as you go. Yeah, and so just don't be scared of it, just, you know, start playing around and you'll definitely be able to figure it out. So irrespective of which Cricut machine you have bought, you're going to have a wealth of materials that you can use with your machine. I would really suggest that you think about which material is it that you are most likely to use in the projects that you like to do, and then really get to grips with it before you move on to another one. I mean, there's so many options. Paper and cardstock, I would say everyone can kind of go with them from the very beginning because there's not a lot that can go wrong when you're cutting cardstock on your machine. But then when it comes to things like adhesive vinyl, iron-on vinyl, infusible ink, and foil using the foil transfer kit, there is a little bit more that you need to understand before you can really get the best results with it. Of those materials, you really should think, am I more likely to want to, you know, cut vinyl decals to decorate mugs and vases and things like this? Or are you someone who's more going to want to be personalizing t-shirts or printing designs onto cushions? Once you've kind of made that decision, then you should choose the material that you need for that and then really focus on getting to know it. My personal advice would be to start with adhesive vinyl. So adhesive vinyl is basically just a roll of like sticky material. So it'll have different finishes, you know, sometimes it's glitter, some are matte, some are shiny, holographic, all really beautiful colors and designs you can get. But I do find this to be the simplest material to start with because it's a sticky backed material. All you really have to figure out is how to cut it on the machine and then how to transfer your design onto whatever your blank is. But when we think about things like iron-on vinyl, also known as HTV or heat transfer vinyl, infusible ink, those materials you have to figure out how to cut it on your machine. But then you also have to have a heat press, which you can use to then apply the material onto your blank. And so you have to then understand the temperatures and the timings and how the different fabrics will work. So I just think that there's a higher level of complication when it comes to those kind of materials versus adhesive vinyl. So I do have loads of projects on the channel where I have demonstrated how to use adhesive vinyl, how you weed it, and then use transfer tape to apply it onto whatever it is that you're decorating. So I'll put some links for you below to go and check out. Also, don't panic if you are someone who bought your machine specifically because you want to use iron-on vinyls or infusible ink. They are easy enough to figure out. It's just, as I said before, there's an extra step involved because you do need to figure out the right settings on your heat press and the fabric that you're using. But once you've got to the point where you don't even have to think about it when you're cutting adhesive vinyl, whichever material you started with, then you will naturally have more confidence to go and explore other materials and figure out how they work as well. And the last thing that I would suggest you guys think about in your early stages of your Cricut journeys is to think about which of the accessories might be useful for you when you're making your projects. This will really depend on what kind of projects you intend to make. So if you are someone who wants to use infusible ink or iron-on vinyl, then getting an easy press or a heat press is going to be like a vital purchase for you. In the early days, I did try and do these projects with my iron, and it was very difficult, and I had a like 50% success rate with it. So I do think that having an actual easy press or, you know, a specific heat press for these kind of materials is well worth the investment. So you need to think about that. If you're someone who maybe you're getting married and you want to make wedding invitations, then you might want to buy the foil transfer kit, because that can add some really wonderful details to your wedding invitations or place cards. And so then you would need to purchase the foil transfer kit and then, you know, the associated foils that you would be using. If you are more of a paper crafter, then you might want to think about purchasing something like the scoring stylus or the scoring wheel. I've actually got both, and I do find them to be very useful tools to have for when I am working with cardstocks. Just remember to make sure whichever tool it is you want to get will in fact be compatible with your machine. Basically everything is compatible with the Maker. Also with the Explore, most tools are, but you do need to check. For example, the knife blade you can't use with the Explore. And of course with the Joy you have a much more limited range, but you can find all this information on the Cricut website, which I will link for you below. Congratulations to you if you have recently become a Cricut owner. I really hope that these tips help you to have the best start in your Cricut crafting journey. And of course, if you have any questions, then just drop me a comment below or DM me over on Instagram, because I am here to help you. I will see you in the next video. Until then, happy crafting!